Well, hello. I guess my photo in the thumbnail was pretty enough to catch your eye. I was dropped this in paper. Hello, you can call me Clementine. You are now my little doves. This is my first video ever and I am so excited to show you how I achieved this look. It's just a recreation of these smoky, glam, kind of Douyin makeup inspired. Well, this is Douyin makeup inspired. That was Douyin. But I will do my best to guide you how I did the eyeliner, did the eyeshadow, the foundation. I will also be going through skin prep. Obviously, if you are only interested in the makeup, feel free to skip ahead if you already know how to do skin prep. But I hope you do enjoy and let's see. So this is the behind the scenes to anyone who has bangs. I'd like to cover skin prep just because I know that there could be younger viewers watching me and not everyone knows how to prep their skin, especially when it comes to makeup. Skin prep's very important, but here we are, fresh skin, that sounds strange. Skin freshly cleaned. So starting off with toner, I love using toners. They're actually my favorite part of skincare and skin prep. If you don't own a toner, no worries. You can actually get away without using one and just use moisturizer, which I will do in the next step. Here I'm using two. I think toners provide a really nice base and helps any skincare afterwards absorb really well. Plus it just gives your skin that extra something. I'm using a ceramide cream just because I love the skincare benefits, but you can use any moisturizer you have on hand. The point of using moisturizer and I guess toner, if you're adding that step, is to just hydrate the skin and let the makeup glide on smoothly, prevent any dry patches for the foundation or concealer to cling to. So that's our skin prep done. That's all you really need, honestly. I know East Asian skincare can be quite extensive and you're not always sure what to look out for. I have combination skin that leans on dry. These are just some of my personal favorites and staples in my own routine. I'll be leaving their names in the description with everything else. You can buy them on 𝙿𝚗𝚘𝚍, YesStyle, or Olive Young. Finally, starting off the makeup, I'm just applying primer. Skincare does go a long way in creating a nice base for your makeup, but applying a makeup primer is also a crucial step. Your makeup will not only have a smoother finish, but it'll also last longer throughout the day. This step is completely optional. I'm just using some because I have it on hand, but I'm just applying poreless primer on my nose and its surrounding areas. Now I'm just applying eyeshadow primer. You can definitely use concealer or the primer you use for your face on your eyelids. I just have eyeshadow primer on hand and it seems like a waste not to use it. I'm going to be color correcting my under eyes with this knockoff 𝙿𝚗𝚘𝚍 Tilbury blush. This is actually my sister's. I borrowed it off her. In my experience, any warm peachy kind of liquid or cream will do. I'm just flattening it out on my hand so it'll apply smoothly. Whenever you're applying anything with makeup, it's always best to go in thin layers. This gives you control on the pigmentation and also where it'll end up on your face. If I hadn't thinned it out on the back of my hand, it would have applied very goopy and thick. I would have to spread it down my under eyes even more and that would defeat the purpose of color correcting. The principles of thinning liquid on the back of your hand apply with concealer as well, even though no matter what you do, your under eyes will crease because that's just how they work if you blink. Thinning it out on the back of your hand first does provide a nicer, smoother coverage. Also, if you ever notice in points of the video where my hands seem to be moving very fast, I am confirming that that is me speeding up the video just to save time. I'm just showing footage of me going in with a second layer just to illustrate how important it is to build up the concealer and work in layers rather than go all in at once. Since this is concealer, if I have any excess product on the back of my hand, I'll just swipe it up and spread it around my face. Now we're finally moving on to the eye makeup. You can grab a white makeup crayon or white eye pencil. We're going to be using this to highlight and map out where I want the eyeshadow to be. Simply start drawing on the outer edges of your under eyes and the inner corners of your eyes. These will just help make the highlights pop later and also give the eyes a bigger shape. This step of underlining your waterline is completely optional if you're not used to it. I'm just doing it to help the illusion that my eyes are bigger, which is a trait of this makeup look. I've only done this a couple of times, so it still does sting a bit for me, but that's normal. Here I have the Huda Beauty Rose Quartz palette, which means my favorite part begins, eyeshadow. With a dense medium-sized brush, we're going to take this cool toned brown. And just starting on the inside of the edge of your eye, you're going to swipe it in first. Make sure to start on the more inward area of your eyelid, right on top of your lashes, so that you have control on where to spread it out when you start, creating that winged shape with the eyeshadow. And make sure not to let the eyeshadow go beyond the middle of the eye. We're only coloring the outer edge. Going back to layer on the eyeshadow to deepen the color, make sure to swipe inward more than you would outward, just so you avoid creating an overly dramatic wing with the eyeshadow. You can see that I usually only start swiping outward when my brush has very little pigment on it, just so then I can have that control to feather it out nicely and make sure that the pigment doesn't go overboard around my eyes. Now we're going to get a small or medium-sized fluffy brush and use this neutral color. This is going to act as a base for all the glitter to be on. I would have preferred that the color was a bit cooler, but this was what I had on hand, which is fine. Most of the time makeup is about improvising. All of my makeup products and eyeshadow palettes were collected over many years. I'm just going back in and layering on the eyeshadow until I'm happy with it. While I'm doing this, I'm also shaping out how the color is going to lay on my eyes. I followed the line and edge of the outer wing we made earlier with the darker color. Grabbing a medium-sized dense brush, we are going to grab this extremely dark brown and give shadow to that wing. Be very careful in this step and make sure any movements you make are very tight and controlled. It's very easy to go wrong with dark colors. Moving on to the under eye, we are going to use this small fluffy brush and getting that cool tone brown that we used in our first step to start applying eyeshadow under the highlights we made. I know at the moment it looks a little bit crazy, but just trust the process with me, especially since we're moving on to glitter now. Out of habit, for some reason I like having all glitters ready on standby on my fingers, so I'm grabbing this secondary silver color first, even though we're going to be using this lighter iridescent shimmer first, so we can layer the glitters by particle size. Even though this shimmer leans on the warmer end of the spectrum, I think it's always important to lay on a very fine shimmer all over your eyelids when you're using glitter. It just helps make the entire look more cohesive and creates depth without having to lay on so much of just one glitter. So we're just going to add this all over our under eyes and our eyelids. Alright, so now we're going to be using that silver. Just be careful not to let it go outside the boundaries of the brown eyeshadow we laid down, but other than that you can just spread it all over your eyelids. Using a more dense and precise brush, we are going to be applying that same silver shadow on the outer edges of our eyes. A very thin layer will do. We're just going to follow and go over the shape of the brown eyeshadow, but we don't want the glitter to be too opaque. To add a bit more depth and highlight to our eyeshadow, we're going to take this white shimmer shade and place it on the highest points of our eyelids. Now to add dimension and shadow, we're going to take this cool matte brown, and using a small or medium-sized brush, we're going to apply this to the dips of our eyes. Just like when we were using that extremely dark brown, make sure your movements are very precise and controlled. We're going to add that white shimmer to the inner corner of our eyes. This is my favorite part. I also like adding a bit of highlight on my bottom eyelids. I'm also going to be adding highlights to my brow bones, and it's really funny that I remembered to do this step because as you'll see, I forgot to do nose highlights, so I had to redo my entire look and re-record it. By the time I remembered, I had already removed my makeup. It was actually a completely different day, so you'll see more of that later. Bringing back that white crayon, we're going to be adding this to the area above our eyeshadow. This is going to act as a base and accentuate more glitter later, which is a very common trait of this look. Be sure to smooth it out a little as well. Grabbing that glitter now, we're going to be using this white shimmer that we've been using to highlight everything else. Just dab it on very nicely. I find that glitter lays down better when you use your fingers first. It just comes out brighter, but we're also going to be using a brush to accentuate it. I like using a combination of tapping and swiping motions. So our eyeshadow is more or less done, and we're going to be moving on to foundation. Following the instructions on the bottle, I'm going to shake it well first, then I'm going to pump some of it on the back of my hand. Grabbing an extremely dense foundation brush, we're going to get some of that from the back of our hand and stipple it all over our face. If there is quite a big blob of foundation on the back of your hand, make sure to dab in the brush very slowly and evenly. I like using a beauty blender to even out my foundation. I'm just using a jug of water to demonstrate just because I don't have the equipment to film at my sink, but all you have to do is submerge it in water and take it out, squeeze out all the excess water, as much of it as possible. Then you place it onto a towel and you squeeze and squeeze out as much excess water as you're able to. Keep moving the sponge around different dry areas of the towel and squeezing it. Do this for another 5 rounds so the sponge isn't too wet and won't move your makeup around or make it look really patchy. Now that our beauty blender is ready, just dab it all over your face to even the foundation out. Also, just a random tidbit I wanted to add, it's completely okay if your makeup doesn't turn out exactly like mine. You might just have different facial features or different products or just different experience with this style, which is completely okay. I've learned that over the years it's just important to have fun with the makeup and do it for yourself. The headband can finally come off now. I'm just going to brush my hair out. I'm going to demonstrate to you real quick how to do the Aegyo Sal. I actually completely forgot to film this in my original filming, so I redid my makeup and I'm showing it to you now, but it will not show up in later footage. The Aegyo Sal is going to only exist in like this footage and the footage where I highlighted my nose. On to blush, you can use a neutral or more cool tone shade. I'm just using this more neutral one from my palette. You can customize the intensity as much as you'd like. I'm just following the reference photos and dabbing it on very lightly. So this is the extra footage I was talking about, demonstrating nose highlights. You can grab a highlight you own. I'm just using this white shimmer and dab it on the button of your nose or anywhere else you'd like to highlight. Since I have hooded eyes, I apply eyeliner a bit differently. I would first widen my eyes and swipe, then I would rest them and start filling in the shape until I'm happy with it. I would keep my eyes rested in its neutral position as much as possible, as it's really easy for me to go wrong if I can't see my crease. I also make sure my eyeliner never crosses into my crease, as it'll bend it in several different angles and it'll look very unflattering. It will no longer look like a continuous line. It'll just start staircasing different sections of the eyeliner and it looks really funny. Rhinestones are always a very fun addition to any look. You want to get some lash glue. Any lash glue would do. You want to look straight into the mirror and map out where the rhinestones will be. Try to get them as even as possible. We're going to be using several different sized rhinestones, but the process is the same. I get my hands slightly sticky with the lash glue, then I tack on the rhinestone and press down very firmly to where I placed lash glue earlier. I repeat this several times off camera. Moving on to mascara, I'm going to say this now, I highly recommend 𝚂𝚗𝚘𝚍𝚞𝚜. Very slowly, you want to position your eyelashes in the curler and just press down very gently and very slowly to make sure you don't pinch your eyes. Then just pinch down firmly again and again to get the curl. Along with the 𝚂𝚗𝚘𝚍𝚞 mascara, I also recommend this Shiseido curler, as it suits my eye shape a lot better and it pinches my eyes a lot less than other curlers I've tried. Mascara is quite straightforward but tricky if you're not used to it. You can be very gentle and just build it up slowly and carefully, swiping up each time. In a few seconds, I'm going to run into a completely unplanned problem. I accidentally dabbed some mascara on the corner of my eyeshadow, but don't worry, I'll show you how to remove it without having to redo your entire makeup. With a very dense small brush, you want to pick up the mascara in very controlled movements, then grab the eyeshadow shade that was used in that area and cover up what's left of the mascara mark. As you can see, it's like it was never there. You just have to stay calm, which was very hard for me to do because I was in the middle of filming, but that was actually great. I got to show you how to remove mascara. I'm just finishing off my mascara now and making sure that it's all even. Applying mascara on your bottom lashes follows the same principles. You just swipe very carefully and very gently. You'll notice later that I won't be using any falsies in this video. I actually don't wear falsies in general just because they're personally not my thing, but you can definitely add on falsies to your look if you want to. I'm just brushing out my hair again. I hope you enjoyed the footage. We're almost done and moving on to the lips. Using any kind of clear or pink gloss, I'm going to moisturize my lips so that they're nice and smooth first. Using any lipstick or lip stain that matches the reference photo, I'm just going to apply this pretty straightforward onto my lips. Since the lipstick in the reference photo was quite light, I'm just going to be swiping away most of it until it's quite pale. And now I'm going to top it all off with more lip gloss. I'm going to be using this setting spray to finish it all off. I've been eyeing this 𝙿𝚗𝚘𝚍 setting spray for a while now and I'm so happy that I have it. It's working like a dream. To speed up the drying process, I usually grab a thin book or an empty palette box and just fan my face. This is the finished look. I am so happy with it. Hi, may I please have your attention for just a minute? At the end of every video, I will try and promote a humanitarian effort or charity. I cannot go in depth because then we would be here for hours, but to keep it simple, families in Guatemala have been suffering from systemic poverty for years. They have no access to consistently clean water, no access to consistent meals, or education. And that is why today our charity is Send a Miracle, a non-profit organization who does amazing work in Guatemala. Their main mission is to end the cycles of systemic poverty. Even though the best way to send aid would be to donate, I understand that not everyone has the capacity to donate. I myself am a broke student and I don't have the economic capacity to donate. But do not worry, you can also help by educating yourself on what's happening in Guatemala. Simply remember them and try to spread awareness as best as you can. For more information, I have included links down below in the description about Send a Miracle as well as their donation page. There will also be links that will lead you to articles covering the systemic poverty happening in Guatemala. Thank you so much for listening and thank you so much for your time. I truly hope you enjoyed the video. Bye-bye!